Make your enemies fear you without saying a word. How to be untouchable. Imagine for a moment, you're in a room filled with people, and there's an invisible energy in the air. Everyone around you is going about their business, but something's different when they look at you. They hesitate, they hold back. You haven't said a word, you haven't lifted a finger, but you've already established dominance. The tension in the room is palpable. Your presence alone has commanded respect. You're calm, unshaken, and somehow untouchable. This isn't magic, it's not luck, and it's certainly not about physical intimidation. It's something deeper, something that has been practiced for centuries. Now, what if I told you that you could cultivate this aura of strength, this presence of power, by doing something that may seem counterintuitive, by saying nothing at all? What if you could make your enemies fear you, not through words, not through threats, but through your very essence, your mind, your emotional control, your inner calm? This may sound like an impossible task, but it isn't. It's a philosophy that dates back to ancient Greece, one that has stood the test of time and continues to influence powerful leaders, thinkers, and warriors around the world today. That philosophy is Stoicism. Stoicism is not just about enduring hardship or controlling emotions. It's about mastering the inner strength that allows you to remain untouched by external chaos. It's about turning your mind into a fortress and becoming so steadfast in your beliefs and actions that others can't help but notice your composure, your power, and yes, your ability to strike fear without ever having to say a word. But how can you achieve this? How can you become that person who walks into a room and demands respect without lifting a finger? How can you harness the timeless wisdom of Stoicism to make those around you, especially your enemies, fear your very presence? In this video, we're going to explore how Stoic wisdom can help you create that aura of power, that sense of invincibility that will make others hesitate before even considering crossing you. We'll dive into the ancient teachings of great Stoic philosophers like Marcus Aurelius, Epictetus, and Seneca, and uncover how their insights can empower you to become someone who doesn't need to speak to be heard and doesn't need to fight to win. Get ready, because we're about to embark on a journey that will transform the way you think, the way you carry yourself, and the way others perceive you. You'll soon learn how to make your enemies fear you without saying a single word. Number 1, the power of self-control. There's one thing that weak people hate about strong people. It's their ability to stay calm under pressure. The moment you refuse to react the way someone expects you to, you've already won. Think about it. How many times have you seen someone lose their temper, raise their voice, or break down when faced with confrontation? That loss of control is a display of weakness. It's a moment that reveals just how easily they can be manipulated, how quickly they can be pulled into an emotional battle they didn't prepare for. Now picture the opposite. Imagine someone who, no matter what insults are thrown their way, no matter how much chaos is happening around them, remains completely composed. They don't flinch. They don't let emotions dictate their actions. They simply exist, calm, unreadable, untouchable. That's the kind of presence that commands both fear and respect. The Stoics understood this better than anyone. Marcus Aurelius, the Roman emperor and one of the greatest Stoic thinkers in history, had every reason to be consumed by emotions. He was surrounded by war, betrayal, and the pressures of ruling an empire. But instead of allowing himself to be ruled by anger, frustration, or fear, he practiced something far more powerful: self-mastery. He wrote in his meditations, "You have power over your mind. not outside events. Realize this, and you will find strength. That is the foundation of true power. Not control over others, not intimidation through force, but mastery over yourself. Because once you master yourself, the world no longer controls you. Think about it. Who is more dangerous? The man who shouts at every insult, or the man who stares back in silence, unmoved, giving nothing away? When you refuse to react, you send a silent message. I am not affected. You do not have power over me. And that, more than anything, is what makes people uneasy. But self-control isn't just about silence. It's about controlling your emotions at all times. Your enemies want to see you flinch. They want to see a crack in your armor, a moment of weakness where they can strike. When you deny them that satisfaction, when you remain unreadable, you make them second-guess themselves. They don't know what you're thinking, they don't know how you'll react, and that makes you unpredictable. And unpredictability breeds fear. So how do you train yourself to master this level of self-control? The Stoics had several practices, and one of the most effective was the premeditation of evils, a mental exercise where you imagine worst-case scenarios before they happen. This doesn't mean you live in fear. It means you prepare your mind in advance so that nothing surprises you. If you expect hardships, insults, betrayals, then when they do come, they won't shake you. You'll already be prepared. Another technique is journaling. Marcus Aurelius wrote in his private journal every day, reflecting on his thoughts and emotions, reminding himself of what truly mattered. When you write down your emotions, you distance yourself from them. You observe them instead of becoming them. Mastering self-control is not about suppressing emotions. It's about acknowledging them without allowing them to dictate your actions. It's about being so mentally strong that no one can pull you into a battle you didn't choose. That is the kind of power that makes others uneasy. That is the kind of presence that makes people fear you, without you ever needing to say a word. Number 2, the art of being unpredictable. Predictability is a weakness. If people know exactly what you're going to do, they can prepare for it. They can manipulate you, control you, or worst of all, stop fearing you. But when you become unpredictable, when no one can anticipate your next move, you become a force to be reckoned with. The greatest warriors, strategists, and leaders throughout history have all understood this. Take the Roman general Scipio Africanus, for example. He defeated Hannibal, one of the most brilliant military minds in history, not by brute strength, but by being unpredictable. He refused to fight the way his enemies expected him to, and because of that, they never knew what was coming next. The same principle applies to everyday life. If you always react the same way to insults, if people always know what to expect from you, you become easy to read and easy to control. But when you remain unreadable, when your actions don't follow a predictable pattern, people will hesitate. They will fear what they don't understand. Stoicism teaches us to detach from external expectations. The moment you stop reacting in the way the world expects, you become unpredictable. When someone insults you and expects an angry reaction, but instead you simply look at them and walk away, you leave them confused. They wanted a fight, they got silence. And silence is often more powerful than any words. Epictetus, another great Stoic philosopher, once said, "If someone succeeds in provoking you, realize that your mind is complicit in the provocation." In other words, the moment someone can predict your reaction, they own you. But if you refuse to be predictable, if you refuse to be controlled by emotions, you take back your power. So how do you cultivate unpredictability? Start by breaking patterns. If you always react a certain way, do the opposite. If people expect you to be loud, be silent. If they expect you to be aggressive, be calm. Keep them guessing. Another powerful tool is strategic detachment. When you detach yourself from outcomes, from needing to win every argument or prove your worth, you become free. And that freedom makes you dangerous, because people can't control someone who doesn't need their approval or validation. This kind of unpredictability isn't just about avoiding being manipulated. It's about forcing others to constantly rethink their approach. It's about making them unsure, hesitant, and eventually afraid. Because what people fear most is the unknown. And when you become that unknown, when people can't read your next move, when they can't predict what you'll do next, you become someone they fear without you ever needing to say a word. Number 3, the power of silence and minimalism. There's a reason the most dangerous people in any room are often the quietest. They aren't quiet because they have nothing to say. They're quiet because they don't need to say anything. They observe, they calculate, they wait. And when they do speak, every word carries weight. That's power. Most people feel the need to fill silence with noise. They talk too much, explain themselves unnecessarily, and give away their thoughts, emotions, and weaknesses without realizing it. The moment you say too much, you give others something to use against you. But when you say little, when you master the art of silence, you create mystery, and mystery breeds fear. Stoicism teaches that speech should be measured and intentional. Seneca, one of the greatest Stoic philosophers, warned against excessive talking. We have 2 ears and 1 mouth so that we can listen twice as much as we speak. Silence is a weapon because it makes people uncomfortable. Most people are used to getting a reaction, whether it's agreement, disagreement, or argument. But when you remain silent, they're left questioning. They start filling in the blanks themselves, often imagining something far worse than anything you could have actually said. Imagine someone insults you in front of a group of people. They expect you to react, to fire back, to defend yourself, to show emotion. But instead you just look at them. No anger, no fear, no reaction. Maybe you smirk, maybe you shake your head slightly, or maybe you do nothing at all. The room falls into an awkward silence. Suddenly the power dynamic shifts. The person who insulted you now looks desperate, weak, even foolish. And you look untouchable. But silence isn't just about withholding words. It's about simplifying your actions, your lifestyle, and your presence. The more extravagant and loud you are, the easier you are to read. The more you strip away the unnecessary, the harder you are to figure out. This is why minimalism was a key component of Stoic wisdom. It's not just about material possessions. It's about minimizing emotional reactions, unnecessary drama, and meaningless distractions. The moment you start speaking less and observing more, people will start to feel your presence differently. They will wonder what you're thinking. They will question what you know that they don't. And in that uncertainty, fear begins to grow. If you want to cultivate an aura of power, learn to embrace silence. Speak only when necessary, and when you do, make it count. Cut out meaningless words, avoid excessive explanations, and let your presence do the talking. When people realize they can't predict your thoughts or emotions, they'll fear what they don't understand. And that's when you'll know you've already won. Number 4, resilience and endurance. There is nothing more terrifying to an enemy than someone who refuses to break. Strength is not just about force. It's about endurance. It's about standing firm in the face of pressure, hardship, and even direct attack without losing yourself. When your enemies realize that no matter what they do, no matter how much they push, insult, or challenge you, you will not break. They will fear you. Stoicism teaches that suffering is inevitable, but how you respond to it is entirely within your control. Most people collapse under pressure. They panic when things don't go their way, complain when life becomes difficult, and give up when faced with adversity. The Stoic, however, embraces hardship. Not only do they endure it, but they welcome it, knowing that every struggle is an opportunity to grow stronger. Epictetus, who was born into slavery and later became one of the greatest Stoic philosophers, understood this better than anyone. He was beaten, mistreated, and yet he remained unshaken. He once said, "How long will you wait before you demand the best of yourself?" Resilience is a mindset. It's a decision to keep going when others stop. It's the ability to take every challenge, every insult, every hardship, and turn it into fuel. And when people see that they cannot break you, they start to fear you. Because there's nothing more intimidating than someone who cannot be defeated. But how do you train resilience? You must voluntarily embrace discomfort. The Stoics practiced this through what they called voluntary hardship. They would sleep on the floor even when they had a bed. They would go days eating only the simplest food. They would walk in the cold without extra layers, all to remind themselves that they were stronger than their circumstances. This wasn't about suffering for no reason. It was about proving to themselves that they could endure anything. Because if you willingly put yourself in difficult situations, then when real hardship comes, you won't fear it. You'll already be prepared. Physical endurance is one aspect of resilience, but mental endurance is just as important. Train yourself to remain calm in stressful situations. When someone tries to provoke you, don't react. When things don't go your way, don't complain. The more you train yourself to endure, the more unshakable you become. And the moment people realize they can't control you, that they can't break you, that no matter what they do, you will still stand tall, that's when they will fear you. Because true power isn't in how much you can hurt others, but in how much you can take without ever faltering. So let them try. Let them test you. Let them think they have the power to bring you down. And then show them, through your silence, through your endurance, through your unbreakable will, that they were wrong. And watch as that realization turns into fear. Number 5. Cultivating an aura of invincibility. There's something unsettling about a person who cannot be shaken. Someone who stands in the face of adversity and simply doesn't flinch. It's not arrogance. It's not recklessness. It's something deeper. It's the quiet, unshakable confidence of someone who has already won the battle within themselves. And when your enemies realize that nothing they do can touch you, that's when they begin to fear you. Stoicism teaches that true strength isn't found in aggression or dominance over others, but in mastery over yourself. When you develop an aura of invincibility, it's not because you are untouchable in a physical sense. It's because you have made peace with every possible outcome. The moment you stop fearing loss, pain, humiliation, or hardship, you become someone who cannot be controlled. Marcus Aurelius, one of the most powerful men in history, wrote in Meditations, "You may break your heart, but men will still go on as before. Do not act as if you had 10,000 years to throw away. Death stands at your elbow. Be good for something while you live, and it is in your power." This is the mindset of someone who cannot be defeated. He understood that time is fleeting, that suffering is inevitable, and that in the end, worrying about external events is a waste of energy. If you accept this truth, you will develop the kind of confidence that terrifies people. So how do you cultivate this aura of invincibility? First, you must let go of attachment to outcomes. If you are obsessed with winning, proving yourself, or being admired, you are vulnerable. But if you act with integrity and focus only on what you can control, nothing can truly harm you. Second, you must accept pain and hardship as necessary parts of life. The Stoics believed that suffering is the price of growth. Instead of fearing difficulty, embrace it. Instead of avoiding discomfort, seek it. When you willingly walk into hardship, you strip it of its power over you. And finally, you must maintain unwavering dignity. This means never begging for respect, never lowering yourself to petty conflicts, and never allowing others to dictate your actions. When you carry yourself with quiet confidence, when you refuse to react emotionally, and when you stay committed to your values no matter what, people won't know what to do with you. This is what makes people afraid. Not your words, not your threats, but the fact that nothing shakes you. The fact that no matter what happens, you remain the same. A man who has nothing to lose cannot be controlled. A man who does not fear suffering cannot be defeated. And a man who carries himself with the confidence of someone who has already conquered his own mind is a man who commands both respect and fear, without ever having to raise his voice. Number 6, the Stoic path to quiet power. Power isn't loud, it doesn't announce itself. It doesn't need validation or recognition. True power, the kind that lasts, the kind that people respect and fear, moves in silence. It's the confidence of a man who doesn't need to prove himself. It's the presence of someone who doesn't demand attention, but receives it anyway. The Stoics understood that the most powerful person in the room is often the one who speaks the least, reacts the slowest, and remains calm when others panic. Power is not about control over others. It's about absolute control over yourself. And once you master that, the world will feel it, even if you say nothing at all. There's a reason the greatest warriors and leaders throughout history were men of few words. They understood that talking too much dilutes authority. That showing too much emotion reveals weakness. That explaining yourself excessively makes you look uncertain. They knew that real power lies in restraint. Seneca once said, "A wise man is content with his own approval." In other words, the moment you stop seeking validation from others, you become dangerous. Most people are trapped by their need to be liked, their need to be understood, their need to be recognized. But when you free yourself from this, you operate on a different level. The Stoic path to quiet power requires 3 things. 1, self-mastery. If you cannot control yourself, you cannot control anything else. The more disciplined you are in your thoughts, actions, and emotions, the more powerful your presence becomes. 2, detachment from praise and criticism. If you let people's opinions affect you, they control you. When you become indifferent to praise or criticism, you become untouchable. 3, a reputation built on integrity. Power is not about manipulation or deceit. It's about being so solid in your principles that people know they cannot shake you. When you stand by your values, no matter the cost, people will either respect you or fear you. The most powerful men in history were not the loudest. They were not the ones who constantly sought attention. They were the ones who knew their worth, carried themselves with quiet confidence, and let their presence do the talking. So if you want to make your enemies fear you without saying a word, start by mastering yourself. Stop reacting to nonsense. Stop explaining yourself to people who don't deserve it. Stop seeking approval. Instead, embrace silence, develop resilience, and carry yourself like a man who has already won. Because in the end, power isn't in what you say, it's in what you don't need to say. The final lesson: true power speaks in silence. Power is not about words. It's not about aggression, threats, or dominance. It's about presence. The most feared individuals in history weren't those who shouted the loudest or made the most noise. They were the ones who carried themselves with unshakable confidence. The ones who didn't react to petty provocations. The ones who remained calm while others lost control. Your enemies don't fear your anger. They don't fear your insults. They fear your ability to remain unaffected. They fear the fact that they can't predict you, that they can't get under your skin, that they can't manipulate you into emotional reactions. When you master yourself, your emotions, your actions, your thoughts, you become someone who is not only respected, but feared. Through the wisdom of the Stoics, we've explored how to cultivate this power. Self-control. Master your emotions so that no one can use them against you. Unpredictability. Make yourself unreadable so that no one can anticipate your next move. Silence and minimalism. Speak less, observe more, and let your presence do the talking. Resilience. Become someone who cannot be broken, no matter how much pressure is applied. Invincibility. Let go of attachment to outcomes so that nothing in the external world can shake you. Quiet power. Carry yourself with dignity, self-respect, and confidence, without ever needing to seek approval. If you apply these principles, you will develop an aura that naturally commands both respect and fear. Not because you threaten anyone, not because you impose your will on others, but because people fear what they do not understand. They fear those who cannot be controlled. And when you walk into a room, when you engage with others, when you stand firm in your own power, without a word, without effort, your enemies will feel it. They won't know why, they won't be able to explain it, but they will know that you are not someone to be taken lightly. So, let them talk. Let them try. Let them think they have power over you. And then, without a single word, show them that they never did. Because true power isn't something you need to prove, it's something you simply are.